Welcome back. One Bills Live from One Bills Drive. We've got the return of the blue and the red coming up tonight. It was great to have Brandon Beane in here. And now we got another great guest to have with us. Eric Wood, longtime center for the Buffalo Bills, ready to make his debut next Thursday night as the color analyst on the Buffalo Bills radio network with yours truly. Welcome back, Eric. Good to have you here. You look like you belong here, I got to say.
I appreciate that. I feel like I belong in Buffalo. I was FaceTiming my wife from the airport when I got in today because the kids weren't up when I took off.
Yeah.
I was FaceTiming all of them, and she's like, man, that really looks familiar. We've been there a whole bunch of times.
The airport with a picture of Tasker on the wall? Is that what you
Exactly. Exactly.
Welcoming everybody home. You betcha.
Well, welcome. It's good to have you here. Hey, let me talk a little bit of shop talk here. As I said, you should know Eric is on the radio broadcast with us starting next Thursday. You've got another broadcast career that you're launching too with the ACC network, right? Tell us about that. What do they got in mind for you there?
Yeah, so I'm going to be a sideline analyst with a live microphone, so similar kind of to the Booger McFarland role. I guess ESPN's going to expand that this year. There's a number of us that are going to be on the sideline.
Standing or riding the booger?
No, I'll be standing.
Okay.
And a lot of guys with playing experience that they feel like can draw something from the game as it's going on that maybe they can't from the booth.
Yeah.
And as a former player, I guess they're trusting me with a live mic that I'll have enough valuable info throughout the game. So I just got back from the ESPN college football seminar. My days are getting mixed up now, but either yesterday or the day before, I got back to Louisville 2 nights ago and really got some valuable information on what my role will look like, learned our first couple games and all that.
You know who's done more sideline reporting than anybody in NFL history?
Steve Tasker.
Yes, he's right here. The resource you need is right here, right?
No, I've done a lot of games. I've done like 300 games, NFL games, but I've done sidelines as well. I did the Super Bowl a couple of times. Yeah, it's
when the lights go out of the Super Bowl, he's the guy you want.
It's interesting because it's hard to do well, and I think you need some support to do it. If they've got a camera with you, if you come on, even if you're talking, if they can see how close you can get on the sidelines,
right.
It really adds something to the broadcast, the scope of the day and the experience. I tell people, they go, wow, you watch the games from the sidelines. I go, yeah. I go, don't ever do it because once you stand down there and watch the game, no place else will do it for you. You gotta be there again.
Yeah, you wouldn't feel the energy and hear the hits and all that. And I was kind of playing devil's advocate, which I'm sure I'll pick your brain at some point too, because a few guys did it last year, and I said, well, what exactly are you doing down there? And they said, well, we're providing info that they can't get in the booth. And I said, well, what's that info? And they said, well, you can hear things that they can't hear. And I said, well, what are you listening? Because I'm legitimately trying to know. So
good question.
They're like, you might hear something from a coach that they would never know, and it's not top secret information. Right. Just simply, hey. And they gave an example last year from a Nebraska game. Bo Pelini was really ripping into a player, and they were commenting in the booth about how upset he was at that player, and I guess they provided some context from the sideline analyst saying. He's not mad at him for giving up a big play, other than the only reason was that he didn't do his technique and he let the guy go outside of him in cover 2, and he should have funneled the receiver inside to the safety. And so he was able to provide some context. I said, well, that's a great example. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And in the NFL, there's a lot more constraints on what you can and can't say on a broadcast than there are in the NCAA. In the NFL, it's interesting because if you're standing there and you see the guy and they're looking at his wrist, you can't, they say he goes, this guy's done. Even if the trainer turns around and tells the coach he's done, you can't say that on the air until the trainers talk to their media relations people who talk to our producers in the truck who tell me at the same time they tell the guys in the booth.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I can't relate that until it goes through it comes all the way back down to me through everybody else knows before I do.
Right.
Or before I can say anything. It still comes from the sideline guy, but everybody in the whole broadcast knows before I can say it. So
right.
On the NCAA, there's not those constraints, correct?
Yeah, to my knowledge, because they were saying that you can comment on, hey, he's down here, he's holding his thumb or whatever. Maybe you could in the NFL. You just couldn't necessarily rule him out even if you saw the bone sticking out of his thumb.
Right.
Eric Wood is in. We're going to do a practice game, Eric and I, on the Bills, getting ready for next week's broadcast on the Bills Radio Network. I've never asked you this question, and I don't want to just talk about our broadcast or broadcasting in general, but I have this question for you. What do you want to bring to the radio broadcast? What are you looking to do? What should I look for tonight?
with the recent experience I have with the Bills, I have familiarity with this staff, this scheme.
Yeah.
So I believe I can provide some insider information throughout the broadcast that maybe someone from the outside wouldn't know. I want to bring some energy, some positivity. I want Bills fans to really enjoy listening to me do a game. If we were sitting, I guess appropriate up here would be sitting at the big tree or sitting somewhere around here having a Labatt Blue. I want you to feel like you're listening to a very intellectual buddy talk football.
Okay.
What do you miss most about being on the team down at training camp at this time of year? What do you miss most?
Man, I miss a lot, honestly. I had the pleasure of never going into a training camp with my job on the line. I always knew my standing on the team at that time, and not a lot of guys get that. So through training camp, I got the pleasure of being able to kind of play free, try new techniques, really try and master my craft, and not necessarily say, well, I can't throw my offhand on this pass set because if I get beat this one time, they might bump me back in the rotation. I truly got to experiment with things. But, man, some of the hardest laughs I ever had were in training camp. Practical jokes. We did these pizza eating contests with the offensive line. Those meetings get really long, and they're tough. But then when you step away from them, you kind of miss those, and you miss jabbing at each other and all that. But I miss competing, too. And that's what I'm kind of looking forward to this fall is, man, I'm really going to get the chance to compete on this broadcasting side of things, especially having 2 gigs a week.
You tweeted out, I think, the other day what you miss most about the training camp, right?
Yep.
And the top of your list was golf.
I do. So
every golf match at Oak Hill.
Yeah, so me and Kyle would play every year at Oak Hill together, and we usually play against a couple members. And, man, but CCR, Rondecoy, there's so many good tracks up there, Monroe. So I miss those. The food was always incredible. Towards the end of my career, the staff at St. John Fisher was so unbelievable to me. I was able to hand them a food study and what my caloric needs were for the day based upon activity level that I would get through our trainers and nutritionists and stuff here. And they would build me out this phenomenal meal plan, and they just catered to me, and couldn't thank them enough. And then at the end of camp, they're like, all right, it's time for a cheat meal. What do you want? I said, well, I'm from Cincinnati. Can you guys do your version of Skyline? So they made me their version of a big 3-way and stuff. And they were just phenomenal. They're phenomenal hosts up there at St. John's.
Really are.
St. John Fisher.
One of the things that's happening with the Bills today, and you're going to talk about it on the broadcast, I'm sure, is the offensive line been revamped. There's going to be 4 new starters probably on the offensive line. And now Mitch Morse is nicked up. They got Spencer Long is nicked up. They got
right.
They had a gargantuan. They had 15 guys on the right. They had 3 full offensive lines, and they had this huge puzzle of trying to find the best guys who play. Well, you know the story.
Right.
Now there are holes in it at the top. How are they going to get this done? I mean, this is huge. This is huge.
Can you help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How they do? How big do these injuries mean? How big talk to us about all that has to be done for this offensive line with 4 new starters, probably for sure going to happen this year.
Yeah, I think the value in everybody but Cody Ford of the guys that they brought in have had starting experience in the NFL. That does help. Now, I don't like these injuries as much as I'm sure Brandon Beane and everybody else doesn't like them. Mitch Morse missed almost all of the spring, and now to miss time now, that's not great. That's not great for the offensive line. That's your leader. That's your communicator up front. You want him in there. You want him getting comfortable in Brian Daboll's offense. And then Spencer Long, who is competing for one of those jobs up front as well. With him out, that's not great. But the other guys are going to get some chances to get valuable experience. Mitch Morse is the highest paid center in the NFL for a reason. He probably doesn't need all of training camp to play at a high level. I worry a little bit just about an experience standpoint within the offense. I played in a lot of new offenses during my time in the NFL. In the years that I came off of injuries and I didn't get all the reps in training camp, it did have some effect. So, hopefully it doesn't become a big issue. Hopefully he comes back from the concussion protocol quickly. But man, that concussion protocol, that's nothing to play around with anymore either. Right. They can sit guys in there for a week or so.
Yeah. From afar, looking at Bill's training camp, what impressions do you get of 7 practices 1 week so far?
It's funny. I was joking around the other day with my buddies and my wife because they were asking me that, and I said, it's funny. The guys, I'm relying on articles from guys like Joe Biscaglia and Chris Brown, these guys who I have great relationships with, but I always used to give them stuff about like, you don't know anything about offensive line play, and now I'm relying on their reports.
What about One Bills Live? You don't tune in or listen to Steve? No?
It's hard to get this down in Louisville.
Oh, man.
It's true. Radio.com app.
Radio.com? Okay, because honestly, my wife was asking me, how do I tune in today? And I said, well, they usually replay my clips. So
yeah,
Radio.com app, and you start on your phone, you pop on the Bills app, it'll do it too, yeah. Just
okay, perfect.
Go right on in.
But I have followed daily with the articles, with reports from the Bills, from local reporters in town.
What are you hearing? What do you
similar to you guys, I'm loving the playmaking ability of this revamped wide receiving core. We know Robert Foster can make plays. Zay Jones made some plays, but John Brown and Cole Beasley seem to be really gelling with Josh Allen, which is a great sign. I hate that Tyler Kroft isn't out there because that is a playmaking tight end. And then kind of the other I was joking around with Bean the other day. I said, man, any tight end fast enough to pull a hamstring pulled one, you know?
That's right.
And,
you're right.
But,
that was a shot at your buddy Lee Smith, it sounds
right?
like.
Yeah.
Lee knows I'm a big fan of his game. But anyways, been impressed with that. But, you know, I have talked to a few of the guys. I've heard that this offensive line has come out very feisty, very hungry to kind of get everybody off their back this year. Talked to Deion Dawkins, and he said there's been days where they really had their way with this defense, and this is a good defense, period.
Sure is.
They return a lot of players from a defense that had a ton of respect in the NFL last year. So any days that the offense is a truly great day, I put a good amount of stock into that. And there seems to have been some great days out there. And you know, I was actually listening to you guys in the car ride earlier, coming from the airport. Sounds like you guys are as impressed with John Brown as I am. And when a guy can take the top off of a defense and run smooth routes underneath, that's got to be good for the running game as well.
Good. Yeah. Hey, last question. You're a year and a half removed from officially retiring from the NFL. I just wonder where your head is at compared to where you were maybe a year ago. With all these broadcast jobs lined up now and everything, you know, the start of a new season with us, ACC work, I'd imagine you're in a different place maybe than you were last August.
I definitely am. You know, last year at this time, I was preparing to go to Saratoga Racetrack with some
good
buddies.
Place too.
It is. But, you know, I spent a fall traveling around, came to a few Bills games last year, went to some Louisville games. I went down and visited Ryan Fitzpatrick in Tampa. You know, I was kind of all over the country. We traveled around. We did some fun things. I found out that wasn't very fulfilling for me. You know, I'm pretty driven. I actually talked to Steve about this not too long ago. It's like you can only play so much golf and hang out at the house before you need a routine, and you need to find something that you're passionate about being good at again, and not just necessarily being a dad and a husband. I don't want to undermine that, but I needed a craft to go after. And the way the injury happened, and, you know, I didn't get released by the Bills till May 31st. Well, I did an audition with Fox for a broadcasting job last August 3rd or something. I was kind of behind the eight ball to hop on a crew last year, so we enjoyed that time as a family. Got away for a little bit, but I'm really looking forward to this fall.
Time to get to work.
Absolutely.
We got work to do.
I know it.
Today. We got a couple of practice games. Eric, it's great to see you. I know you're going to be part of our show during the regular season on a regular basis.
Get used to the airport, man. You're going to be in and out.
I know it. I spent my first morning in the Delta Sky Club today. Pretty nice setup over in Atlanta, but I don't want to spend too much time there this fall.
Thanks, Eric. Eric Wood is with us. Steve and I back in a moment. One Bills Live from One Bills Drive. This is Buffalo Bills Radio.